Welcome. Get comfortable, settle in, and let your mind gently drift as we explore the art of learning skills quickly. There's no rush here, no pressure. Just calm, steady insights that will accompany you as you ease into rest. Let's begin by shattering some myths and reframing what learning really means. Because learning fast isn't about talent. It's not about being naturally gifted or having some special advantage that others don't possess. Learning fast is simply about how you practice. It's about the strategies you use, the approach you take, and the mindset you bring to the process. Our first insight is perhaps one of the most liberating. It's time to ditch learning styles. For decades, we've been told that some of us are visual learners, others are auditory learners, and still others are kinesthetic learners. The idea is comforting, isn't it? It suggests that if we could just figure out our specific learning style, everything would click into place. But here's the truth that research has consistently shown. Learning styles, as they're commonly understood, don't actually improve learning outcomes. Study after study has found no evidence that tailoring instruction to someone's preferred learning style makes them learn better or faster. What does matter is matching the content to the task. If you're learning to identify bird calls, you need to listen. If you're learning to draw, you need to practice drawing. The content dictates the method, not some fixed trait within you. This is freeing because it means you don't need to figure out what type of learner you are before you begin. You simply need to engage with the material in the way that the skill itself demands. Let that thought settle as we move forward. The second principle brings us to an interesting edge, a boundary that separates comfort from growth. Learning is fastest at the edge of comfort. Think about that for a moment. Not in the zone of complete ease, where everything feels familiar and simple, and not in the zone of overwhelming difficulty, where frustration takes over and progress grinds to a halt. But right there at the edge, where you feel a gentle stretch, a mild challenge, just enough resistance to keep your mind engaged without tipping into anxiety. This is where your brain is most actively forming new connections, most efficiently encoding new patterns. When something is too easy, your brain essentially says, "I already know this, no need to pay close attention." When something is too hard, your brain can't find the patterns at all. But at that edge of comfort, your brain is alert, focused, making sense of new information by connecting it to what you already know. As you lie here, relaxed and calm, consider where that edge might be in something you're learning. That sweet spot where you're challenged but not overwhelmed. Our third insight reminds us that learning by doing beats passive study every single time. You can read about riding a bicycle for hours, study the physics of balance, memorize every technique, but until you actually get on that bike and start pedaling, you haven't really learned to ride. This applies to nearly everything. Watching tutorials, reading books, listening to lectures, these all have their place, but they're just preparation for the real learning that happens when you actively do the thing you're trying to learn. Your brain learns differently when you're actively engaged, when you're making decisions in real time, when you're getting immediate feedback from your actions. Passive study creates a false sense of mastery because information feels familiar when you review it. But familiarity isn't the same as being able to actually perform the skill when it matters. Active practice, even messy and imperfect practice, builds real competence in ways that passive study simply cannot. This leads us naturally to our fourth principle. Test yourself constantly. Not tests in the stressful, high-stakes sense, but frequent, low-pressure self-checks. Quiz yourself. Try to recall information without looking at your notes. Attempt the skill without guidance. This practice, called retrieval practice, is one of the most powerful learning tools we have. Every time you force your brain to retrieve information, you strengthen the pathways that store that information. You make it more accessible for the future. Interestingly, the harder you have to work to retrieve something, the more you benefit from the process. A little bit of struggle during retrieval actually cements the learning more deeply. So instead of reviewing your notes over and over, close them and see what you can remember. Instead of watching the tutorial again, pause it and try the technique yourself. These small self-tests, woven throughout your practice, accelerate learning in remarkable ways. The fifth principle embraces something that might feel counterintuitive: productive struggle. Attempt before asking for help. When you encounter a problem or challenge, your first instinct might be to immediately seek the solution, to find the answer as quickly as possible. But there's tremendous value in spending time with the problem first, in wrestling with it, even if you don't solve it right away. This struggle primes your brain for learning. It helps you identify exactly what you don't understand. It creates gaps in your knowledge that your brain is then motivated to fill. And when the solution or explanation finally comes, it lands in a mind that's prepared to receive it, that has context for why it matters. Students who struggle with problems before receiving instruction consistently outperform students who receive instruction first. The struggle creates a kind of cognitive readiness. So give yourself permission to not know immediately. Spend time with the confusion. Attempt the challenge before seeking help. The learning that follows will be deeper and longer lasting. Our sixth insight brings clarity and focus. Concentrate on one clearly defined skill at a time. It's tempting to try to learn everything at once, to pursue multiple skills simultaneously, to become a Renaissance person overnight. But attention is a limited resource, and learning requires deep focus. When you spread your attention across too many skills, you make slower progress on all of them. Instead, choose one skill and define it clearly. Not get better at cooking, but learn to make perfect scrambled eggs. Not improve my writing, but write clear, compelling opening paragraphs. The more specific and narrow your focus, the faster you'll see improvement. You can always expand later, but starting narrow gives you the concentration needed for rapid skill development. Let your mind rest on this idea. One skill, clearly defined, your full attention devoted to it. The seventh principle builds on this focus with structure. Write a concrete outcome and deadline. Dreams are wonderful, but goals need specificity. Instead of "I want to learn Spanish," write "I will hold a 10-minute conversation in Spanish about my daily routine by March 15th. The concrete outcome tells you exactly what success looks like. The deadline creates urgency and helps you allocate your time. Together, they transform vague intentions into actionable plans. Your brain responds differently to concrete goals. They provide clear targets for your practice, clear ways to measure progress. And when the deadline approaches, you'll find reserves of focus and motivation that weren't there when the goal was open-ended. Write it down. Make it specific. Give it a date. The eighth insight helps you track what truly matters. Use one metric that matters. When learning a new skill, there are usually dozens of things you could measure. But measuring everything means you're focusing on nothing in particular. Choose one key metric that best represents progress in your skill. If you're learning to type faster, measure words per minute. If you're learning to run longer distances, measure the distance you can complete without stopping. If you're learning to give presentations, maybe you measure the percentage of content you deliver without notes. One clear metric gives you immediate feedback, helps you adjust your practice, and provides motivation as you see the number improve over time. It cuts through the noise and tells you whether what you're doing is actually working. Our ninth principle is about timing and relevance. Learn just in time, not just in case. How often have you learned something because you thought you might need it someday, only to forget it before that someday arrived? Just-in-case learning fills your head with information that lacks context and motivation. Just-in-time learning, on the other hand, happens when you're about to use the skill or knowledge. You learn it right before you need it, and then you immediately apply it. This approach is more efficient because the learning has immediate relevance and purpose. You're motivated because you have a real use for it. You retain it better because you use it right away. When possible, structure your learning so you're acquiring knowledge and skills just before you need to deploy them. The timing itself becomes a learning advantage. And finally, our 10th insight offers a sophisticated approach to improvement. Focus on error classification, not just error reduction. Most people practice with a simple goal: make fewer mistakes. But this approach misses something important. Not all errors are the same. Some errors happen because you don't know something yet. Others happen because you lost focus. Still others happen because you're trying a new technique. When you classify your errors, you gain insight into where your practice needs to go. You might discover that most of your mistakes come from rushing, which suggests you need to practice at a slower pace until the skill becomes automatic. Or you might find that your errors cluster around one specific aspect of the skill, telling you exactly where to direct your attention. Error classification turns mistakes from frustrations into data. Each error becomes information that guides your next practice session. Instead of just trying harder to avoid mistakes, you understand your mistakes, and that understanding accelerates improvement. Our 11th principle is both simple and profound. Break skills into tiny chunks. Your brain doesn't learn complex skills all at once. It learns small pieces, then gradually assembles those pieces into fluid, integrated performance. Think about learning to play a song on the piano. You don't start by playing the entire piece from beginning to end. You learn a few measures, then a few more, then you connect them. Each small chunk is manageable, learnable, and can be practiced until it becomes smooth. Then you add the next chunk. This process, called chunking, is how your brain handles complexity. It groups information into meaningful units that can be recalled and executed as a single thought. When you try to learn something too large all at once, you overwhelm your working memory. But when you break it into tiny, digestible pieces, each piece can be learned thoroughly, practiced until it's automatic, and then integrated with other pieces. The skill that once seemed impossibly complex becomes a series of small, achievable steps. As you rest here, consider any skill you're working on. How might you break it into smaller chunks? What's the tiniest piece you could practice right now? The 12th insight addresses timing and foundation. Front-load fundamentals in the first 3 to 5 days. When you begin learning something new, there's a critical window in those first few days where your brain is establishing the basic framework for the skill. This is the time to focus intensively on the core fundamentals, the foundation upon which everything else will build. Not advanced techniques, not impressive flourishes, but the basic building blocks that everything else depends on. If you're learning a language, this might be the most common sentence structures and essential vocabulary. If you're learning to cook, it might be knife skills and understanding heat. Whatever the skill, identify the fundamental elements and give them concentrated attention in those first few days. Your brain is especially plastic during this initial learning phase, forming new neural pathways and establishing patterns. The quality of foundation you build during this window influences everything that follows. It's not that you can't learn fundamentals later, but there's special efficiency in getting them right from the start. Let this truth settle into your awareness. Those first few days matter. Use them wisely. Our 13th principle reminds us to train whole skills, not just rules. You can memorize every rule of grammar, but that doesn't mean you can write a compelling paragraph. You can learn the physics of a tennis serve, but that doesn't mean you can execute one under pressure. Rules and theory give you understanding, but skills are built through integrated practice of the whole activity. When you practice the complete skill in realistic conditions, you're training your brain to coordinate multiple elements simultaneously. You're learning not just the individual components, but how they work together, how they flow from one to the next. This is called whole task training, and it's particularly important for complex skills that require timing, coordination, and decision-making. Yes, you can practice components in isolation sometimes. That has value. But regularly practice the whole skill as it actually occurs in real situations. This trains your brain to manage the full complexity, to make adjustments in real time, to develop the kind of fluid competence that actually matters when you use the skill. The 14th insight builds on this with a powerful combination. Mix theory with real experience. Theory without practice is sterile. Practice without theory is blind. But when you alternate between understanding the principles and applying them in real situations, you create a powerful learning cycle. You read about a concept, then you try it. The trying reveals what you didn't fully understand, which sends you back to the theory with specific questions. The theory then illuminates what happened during practice, giving you insights for your next attempt. This back and forth, this mixing of abstract understanding with concrete experience, is how deep learning happens. Each reinforces the other. The theory gives structure to your experience. The experience gives meaning to the theory. Don't learn everything before you start practicing, and don't practice endlessly without ever stepping back to understand the underlying principles. Weave them together, let them inform each other, and watch how much faster your skill develops. Our 15th principle is straightforward but powerful. Combine several proven techniques. There's no single magic bullet for rapid learning, but there are multiple evidence-based techniques that we know work. And when you use several of them together, their effects multiply. You've already encountered some in these principles: retrieval practice, chunking, whole task training, mixing theory and practice. There are others too: elaboration, where you explain concepts in your own words; interleaving, where you mix different types of problems or skills; concrete examples that make abstract concepts tangible. The learners who improve fastest aren't using just one technique. They're strategically combining multiple approaches, creating a rich learning environment where their brain is engaged in different ways. You don't need to use every technique all the time, but consciously employing several evidence-based strategies together creates conditions where learning accelerates naturally. The 16th insight reveals a powerful engine of improvement. Use retrieval plus feedback loops. We've talked about retrieval practice, testing yourself, recalling information, attempting skills without guidance. But retrieval becomes even more powerful when it's paired with immediate, accurate feedback. You attempt the skill, you get information about how well you did, you adjust based on that feedback, you attempt again. This cycle of retrieve, feedback, adjust, retrieve creates rapid improvement. The retrieval strengthens your memory and reveals what you don't know. The feedback tells you exactly where you're off track and what needs adjustment. Each cycle refines your performance, corrects errors before they become habits, and builds accuracy alongside fluency. The key is that the feedback needs to be timely and specific. Vague praise doesn't help much. Neither does feedback that comes so late you've forgotten what you did. But immediate, specific information about your performance, that's gold for learning. Create these loops in your practice. Attempt, check, adjust, repeat. Our 17th principle addresses one of the most well-established findings in learning science. Spaced repetition beats cramming. Your brain needs time to consolidate information, to move it from temporary storage into long-term memory. When you cram, when you practice intensively for hours all at once, you might feel like you're learning a lot in the moment. And you are, temporarily. But much of that information will fade quickly because your brain hasn't had time to properly process and store it. Spaced repetition, on the other hand, means returning to material or skills at intervals over time. You practice today, then again in 2 days, then again in a week, then again in a month. Each time you return, you strengthen the memory, you deepen the learning, you make it more permanent. The spacing gives your brain time to consolidate between sessions. It also creates a mild form of forgetting, which makes the retrieval effort harder, which paradoxically makes the learning stronger. This is why short, Regular practice sessions almost always beat long, infrequent marathon sessions. The time between practice is when much of the learning actually happens in your brain. And this brings us to perhaps the most underrated learning tool available to you. Sleep consolidates learning. While you sleep, your brain is incredibly busy. It's replaying the experiences of the day, strengthening the neural connections that represent new skills and knowledge, integrating new information with what you already know, and even solving problems that stumped you while awake. Sleep, particularly the deep sleep and REM sleep stages, is when your brain transforms fragile, temporary learning into stable, long-term memory. Studies have shown that people who sleep after learning perform significantly better than people who stay awake for the same amount of time. Sleep doesn't just prevent forgetting, it actively enhances memory and skill. Musicians learn pieces faster with sleep between practice sessions. Athletes refine motor skills during sleep. Students solve math problems more effectively after sleeping on them. Your brain is doing essential learning work while you rest, which means that the hours you spend sleeping aren't time away from learning, they're an integral part of the learning process itself. The 19th insight offers a specific, strategic approach. Sleep on difficult material after brief exposure. When you encounter something particularly challenging, something that feels confusing or overwhelming, there's a powerful technique you can use. Spend just a short time with it, maybe 15 or 20 minutes, engaging with the difficulty, trying to make sense of it, even if you don't succeed. Then stop and do something else. And ideally, sleep before you return to it. What happens during that sleep is remarkable. Your brain continues working on the problem at an unconscious level. It makes connections you couldn't see while awake. It reorganizes the information in ways that make it more comprehensible. People routinely report that problems that seemed impossible the night before suddenly make sense in the morning. This isn't magic, it's your sleeping brain doing what it does best: finding patterns, making connections, consolidating understanding. So when you hit something really difficult, don't bash your head against it for hours. Give it brief, focused attention, then trust your brain to work on it while you sleep. You'll often find that clarity has arrived by morning. And finally, our 20th principle ties everything together. Protect sleep and short breaks. In a culture that often celebrates grinding, hustling, and pushing through, this might seem counterintuitive. But your brain's capacity to learn is directly tied to its opportunity to rest. Sleep, as we've discussed, is when consolidation happens. But even short breaks during practice have significant value. When you take a brief break, even just a few minutes, your brain uses that time to replay what you just practiced. Research has shown that during rest periods, the brain rapidly replays recent experiences, strengthening them. These brief rest periods can actually enhance learning as much as additional practice. So don't feel guilty about taking breaks. Don't sacrifice sleep to squeeze in more practice. Protecting these rest periods is protecting your learning. The most effective learners aren't necessarily the ones who practice the most hours. They're the ones who practice smart, with proper rest woven throughout. Rest isn't the opposite of learning, it's part of the learning itself. Our 21st principle introduces a liberating concept, the 20-hour rule. Research suggests that you can go from knowing nothing about a skill to being reasonably good at it in approximately 20 hours of focused, deliberate practice. 20 hours. That's not 20 hours per week, that's 20 hours total. If you practice for just 45 minutes a day, you'll hit 20 hours in less than a month. This principle is powerful because it makes skill acquisition feel achievable. You're not committing to years of training before you see results. You're committing to 20 focused hours, after which you'll have genuine, functional competence. Now, this doesn't make you an expert. It doesn't give you mastery, but it takes you from "I can't do this at all" to "I can do this reasonably well." And that transformation happens faster than most people imagine. The key word, though, is focused. These need to be 20 hours of deliberate, attentive practice, not 20 hours of distracted dabbling. But when you commit to focused practice, 20 hours can change what you're capable of. Let that sink in. What skill have you been putting off because it seemed like it would take too long? What could you accomplish in just 20 hours? The 20-second insight helps you structure those hours. Time box practice sessions. A time box is simply a fixed period dedicated to practice. 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour. The important thing is that you decide in advance how long you'll practice, and then you practice with full focus for that period. Time boxing serves multiple purposes. It makes practice feel manageable because you know exactly when it will end. It creates urgency that helps you stay focused. You only have this much time, so you use it well. It prevents you from practicing so long that you become exhausted or sloppy. And it makes it easy to fit practice into your schedule because you can find a specific time block rather than waiting for a vague later that never comes. Whether it's 20 minutes or 2 hours, box the time, honor the commitment, and practice with full presence during that period. When the time is up, stop. Even if you want to keep going. Stopping while you're engaged keeps you hungry for the next session. Our 23rd principle zooms in even further. Practice in short, focused blocks. Within your practice sessions, or as standalone sessions throughout your day, short blocks of intense focus are remarkably effective. 15 minutes of concentrated practice where you're fully present often produces more learning than an hour of distracted, half-hearted effort. Your brain's attention is a limited resource that depletes with use. Short blocks allow you to practice at peak focus, then rest and restore your attention before practicing again. This is especially valuable when you're learning something challenging. Instead of a grueling 2-hour session where the last hour is foggy and unproductive, do 4 30-minute blocks with breaks between them. Or even better for some skills, do 8 15-minute blocks spread across different times of day. The total time might be the same, but the quality of attention during those short, focused blocks means you're learning significantly more. Embrace the power of brevity. Short and focused beats long and diffuse almost every time. The 24th insight adds another dimension. Practice at multiple times of day. Your brain's state changes throughout the day. You have different energy levels, different hormones flowing through your system, different levels of alertness. When you practice a skill at different times of day, you're essentially training in different brain states. This creates more robust learning because the skill isn't tied to just one particular state. You can perform in the morning when you're fresh, and also in the evening when you're tired. You're building flexibility into your competence. Additionally, practicing at different times creates multiple encoding opportunities for your brain. Each practice session, happening in a different context, gives your brain another chance to consolidate the skill. So if your schedule allows, vary when you practice. Don't always do it at exactly the same time. This variation strengthens and generalizes your skill in ways that same-time practice doesn't. Our 25th principle embraces the tiny, use micro-learning bursts. These are learning moments that last just 3 to 5 minutes. You might think such brief practice couldn't possibly matter, but micro-learning is remarkably powerful for several reasons. First, you can fit these bursts into otherwise wasted moments, waiting for coffee to brew, standing in line, between meetings. This means you can practice far more often than you otherwise would. Second, the brain actually responds well to these brief, frequent exposures. Each microburst is a retrieval practice opportunity, a reminder, a small reinforcement. Over time, many microbursts add up to significant practice volume. Third, microlearning is perfect for maintaining skills you've already learned. A 3-minute review keeps knowledge fresh and prevents decay. Don't underestimate the power of small, 3 minutes reviewing vocabulary. 5 minutes practicing a technique. 2 minutes drilling a fundamental. These moments matter. They accumulate. They keep you connected to your learning every single day, even on days when longer practice isn't possible. The 26th insight takes micro-learning and adds timing. Use spaced micro-reviews. Remember our earlier discussion of spaced repetition. Micro-reviews are the perfect vehicle for this. Instead of one long review session, spread tiny reviews across time. Review something today, then again tomorrow, then in 3 days, then in a week. Each micro-review takes just minutes, but the spacing creates powerful memory consolidation. Your brain has to work a little to retrieve the information each time, and that retrieval effort strengthens the memory. Apps like Anki have made spaced repetition famous for language learning, but the principle applies to any knowledge or skill. The key is consistency and timing. Small reviews, spaced at increasing intervals, create learning that lasts. This is how you move information from short-term memory into permanent, easily accessible knowledge. And because each review is so brief, the commitment feels easy. A few minutes here and there, strategically spaced, can make knowledge stick for years. Our 27th principle helps practice become automatic. Stack skills onto existing habits. This is habit stacking, and it works beautifully for learning. You take a habit you already do consistently, making morning coffee, brushing your teeth, commuting to work, and you attach your practice to it. The existing habit becomes a trigger for the new practice. Every time you make coffee, you practice your new language for 5 minutes. Every time you finish lunch, you do a quick drawing exercise. The existing habit is already automatic, already woven into your daily routine, so it takes no willpower or decision-making. By stacking your practice onto it, you borrow that automaticity. You remove the need to remember to practice or decide when to do it. It just happens, naturally, as part of your existing routine. This transforms practice from something you have to force yourself to do into something that flows effortlessly through your day. Think about your existing habits. Which ones could you stack practice onto? What would it be like if practice became as automatic as brushing your teeth? The 28th insight removes obstacles. Create a friction-free practice setup. Friction is anything that makes it harder to start practicing. Having to dig your guitar out of the closet. Needing to set up materials. Having to find a quiet space. Every bit of friction is an opportunity for your brain to say, maybe later. And later often becomes never. Fast learners reduce friction relentlessly. They leave their guitar on a stand where they'll see it and can grab it instantly. They keep practice materials organized and ready. They identify their practice space in advance. When it's time to practice, they can begin immediately with no setup required. This might seem like a small thing, but friction is the hidden killer of consistency. The easier you make it to start, the more often you'll actually practice. Examine your own practice environment. What friction exists? What small changes would make starting feel effortless? Sometimes the difference between consistent practice and no practice is just 30 seconds of setup time. Eliminate those 30 seconds, and everything changes. Our 29th principle focuses your efforts. Minimum viable projects. Instead of trying to create something perfect or complete, create the smallest version that actually works and demonstrates the skill. Learning guitar. Don't try to play a whole song perfectly. Play a simple chord progression that sounds musical. Learning to code. Don't build a complex application. Build the simplest program that does one useful thing. Minimum viable projects get you to completion quickly, which is motivating. They give you something concrete to show for your practice. They force you to focus on what's essential rather than getting lost in details. And they create natural checkpoints where you can say, I completed this. Then you can create another minimum viable project, slightly more complex. This approach keeps momentum high because you're always finishing things, always moving forward, always seeing tangible results. You're not practicing in the abstract. You're creating real things, just small and simple real things. And small, completed projects teach you far more than large, abandoned ones ever could. And finally, our 30th principle closes the loop. Build tiny feedback loops. We've discussed feedback before, but the emphasis here is on tiny and immediate. Don't wait until you've practiced for an hour to check if you're doing it right. Build feedback into every few minutes of practice. Record yourself and watch it immediately. Use a mirror to check your form. Test yourself with flashcards that show the answer instantly. Use apps that give immediate correction. The faster you get feedback, the faster you can adjust, and the faster you improve. Tiny feedback loops prevent you from practicing mistakes, which is crucial because practicing something wrong builds bad habits that are hard to break later. When feedback comes immediately, you course correct before errors become ingrained. You're constantly refining, constantly adjusting, constantly getting closer to correct performance. Look for ways to get instant feedback on your practice. What tools, mirrors, apps, or methods could show you immediately whether you're on track? Build these into your routine and watch how quickly your accuracy improves. Our 31st principle introduces variation. Vary and modify your practice. When you practice the exact same way every time, your brain gets efficient at that specific version of the skill, but it doesn't develop flexibility or deep understanding. Fast learners deliberately vary their practice. If you're learning to play a song, play it at different tempos. Play it in different keys. Play parts of it in isolation, then all together. If you're learning a language, don't just repeat the same phrases. Vary the sentence structure, swap in different vocabulary, change the context. This variation forces your brain to work harder, to understand the underlying principles rather than just memorizing one specific version. It builds robust, adaptable skill rather than brittle, narrow competence. Variation also keeps practice engaging because you're not just repeating the same thing endlessly. Each variation is a small challenge, a puzzle to solve, a way to test your understanding. So don't practice the same way twice in a row. Vary something. Speed, context, difficulty, approach. Each variation teaches your brain something slightly different, and together they create comprehensive mastery. The 30-second insight takes variation further with a specific technique. Interleave related subskills. Interleaving means mixing different types of practice within a single session rather than doing blocks of identical practice. Instead of practicing skill A for 30 minutes, then skill B for 30 minutes, you alternate between them every few minutes. This feels less efficient because you have to keep switching, keep adapting. But that feeling of difficulty is precisely what makes it more effective. Your brain has to work harder to distinguish between the skills, to recall the right approach for each one, to adapt as you switch. This builds stronger, more flexible learning. Students who interleave math problems of different types outperform students who do blocked practice of one type at a time, even though the blocked practice feels easier and more fluent. The same applies to music, sports, languages, and countless other skills. Mix related subskills together in your practice. Make your brain work to distinguish and select. That extra cognitive effort pays massive dividends in long-term performance. Our 33rd principle introduces a powerful toggle, alternate between speed and accuracy modes. These represent two different aspects of skill development, and both matter. In accuracy mode, you slow down and focus on getting everything exactly right. Every detail matters. Every movement is precise. This builds the correct patterns in your brain. In speed mode, you push yourself to go faster than comfortable, even if accuracy suffers temporarily. This builds fluency and helps you move beyond conscious control. Fast learners don't just practice in one mode, they deliberately alternate. A few minutes focused on perfect accuracy, then a few minutes pushing for speed, then back to accuracy. The accuracy practice prevents sloppy habits. The speed practice prevents you from getting stuck in slow, overthinking mode. Together, they develop skill that is both correct and fluid. If you only practice accuracy, you'll be precise but painfully slow. If you only practice speed, you'll be fast but messy. Alternating between modes gives you both precision and flow. So in your practice, consciously shift between these modes. Tell yourself, this rep is for accuracy only, perfect form. Then, this rep is for speed, go as fast as I can. Feel the difference, and build both dimensions of skill. The 34th insight introduces creative limitation. Use constraint challenges. A constraint is an artificial limitation you place on your practice to force different approaches and deeper understanding. Learning to write. Try writing without using the letter E, or write only in sentences under 10 words. Learning to cook. Make a dish without recipes, or use only 5 ingredients. Learning to code. Solve a problem without using loops, or complete it in under 10 lines. Constraints sound like they would make things harder, and they do. But that difficulty unlocks creativity and deeper understanding. When your usual approach isn't available, you have to think differently, find new solutions, understand the principles more deeply. Constraints reveal what you truly understand versus what you're just doing by rote. They force improvisation and problem solving. And they make practice feel fresh and engaging rather than repetitive. So add constraints to your practice sometimes. What rule could you add that would force you to approach the skill differently? What limitation would make you think harder about what you're doing? Our 35th principle brings reality into practice. Practice in the performance environment. Your brain learns in context. When you practice in one environment and perform in another, there's a transfer gap. The more similar your practice environment is to where you'll actually use the skill, the better you'll perform when it counts. If you're learning to give presentations, don't just practice alone in your bedroom. Practice in a conference room with chairs set up. If you're learning to cook for dinner parties, practice with multiple dishes at once and a time constraint, not just one dish with unlimited time. If you're learning a sport, practice in the actual game conditions as much as possible, not just drills in isolation. This doesn't mean you never practice in simplified environments, those have value too. The 36th insight balances comfort and pressure. Alternate solo practice with pressure representatives. Solo practice, where you work alone without judgment or time pressure, lets you experiment, make mistakes, and refine technique. This is essential for learning. But pressure representatives, practice under observation, time limits, or simulated competition, are equally important. They train you to perform when it matters, to access your skills under stress, to think clearly when the stakes feel high. Fast learners don't avoid pressure, they seek it out regularly. After building skill in solo practice, they test it under pressure. Then they return to solo practice to work on whatever broke down under pressure. This cycle of comfort and pressure builds skills that are both refined and reliable. So build both into your routine. Most of your practice can be solo, low pressure, focused on improvement. But regularly, maybe once a week, or once every few sessions, add pressure. Practice in front of someone. Set a timer and make it a timed challenge. Create stakes that make it feel real. Your performance under pressure will reveal what skills are truly solid and what still needs work. Our 37th principle harnesses observation. Record yourself and review briefly. We often have a poor sense of what we actually look or sound like when performing a skill. Recording yourself, video for physical skills, audio for speaking or music, gives you objective feedback. But here's the key: the review should be brief and focused. Don't watch 30 minutes of practice footage. Pick one specific thing to observe: your posture, your pacing, your clarity, and watch just 1 or 2 examples. Note what you see, decide what to adjust, and return to practice. This keeps the review process manageable and actionable rather than overwhelming. Recording is powerful because it reveals things you can't notice while you're in the middle of performing. You're too busy doing to observe yourself accurately. The recording lets you step outside and see from an observer's perspective. You'll spot habits you didn't know you had, both good and bad. Just keep the reviews short and focused. Brief observation, quick adjustment, back to practice. This cycle rapidly refines your performance in ways that feel impossible without the external perspective recording provides. The 38th insight combines imitation and innovation. Copy experts deliberately, then customize. When you're first learning a skill, studying how experts do it is invaluable. Don't try to reinvent everything from scratch. Find someone who does it well and deliberately copy their approach. How do they hold the tool? What's their process? What choices do they make? Copy these carefully and intentionally. This gives you a working foundation much faster than trial and error would. But, and this is crucial, after you've copied and understood their approach, customize it. Adapt it to your strengths, your preferences, your context. What works for them might not be optimal for you. The expert's method is your starting point, not your ending point. Fast learners are excellent thieves. They steal freely from experts. But they're also excellent editors. They adapt what they steal to fit themselves. So study experts, copy deliberately, but then gradually make the skill your own. This combination of imitation and customization accelerates learning far beyond either approach alone. The 39th principle reduces unnecessary resistance. Start from templates, not blank pages. Beginning with a template or framework removes the paralysis of the blank page and lets you focus on the specific skills you're trying to learn. Learning to write code. Start with working example code and modify it. Learning to design. Start with a template and customize it. Learning to cook. Follow a recipe first, then experiment with variations. Templates provide structure so you can focus on one layer of skill at a time. Once you're comfortable working within the template, you can gradually add more of your own choices, eventually creating from scratch. But in the early stages, templates eliminate unnecessary cognitive load. You're not trying to solve every problem at once. You're building specific skills within a supportive structure. This accelerates learning and prevents the frustration of staring at a blank canvas with no idea where to begin. So embrace templates and frameworks, especially early in learning. They're training wheels, and training wheels work. And finally, our 40th principle protects your motivation. Build confidence with small wins. Confidence and competence form a positive feedback loop. When you feel confident, you practice more and take on appropriate challenges, which builds competence. When you build competence, you feel more confident. The trick is getting this loop started, and small wins are the key. Structure your practice so you're regularly succeeding at things. Not things that are too easy, small wins that require real effort but are achievable. Complete a simple project. Master a basic technique. Successfully apply what you learned. Each small win proves to yourself that you're making progress, that the practice is working, that you're becoming capable. This builds the confidence to tackle slightly harder challenges, which leads to bigger wins, which builds more confidence. Fast learners are strategic about collecting wins. They break big goals into small milestones specifically so they can experience success regularly. They don't just practice, they create opportunities to succeed. Because they understand that confidence isn't something you wait for, it's something you build through repeated evidence that you're capable. So engineer small wins into your practice. What could you accomplish today or this week that would feel like genuine progress? Create that opportunity, achieve it, let yourself feel the win, and ride that momentum forward. Our 41st principle is perhaps the most powerful single technique for deep learning. Teach what you learn. When you prepare to teach something to someone else, your brain shifts into a different mode. You can no longer just vaguely understand. You have to understand clearly enough to explain it. You have to anticipate questions. You have to organize the information logically. You have to find examples and analogies. This process of preparing to teach forces you to engage with the material at a much deeper level than simply reading or listening. And then, when you actually teach it, to a friend, a study partner, even an imaginary audience, you discover exactly what you don't fully understand yet. The questions you struggle to answer reveal the gaps in your knowledge. The parts you can explain smoothly are the parts you truly own. Teaching is a diagnostic tool that shows you precisely where you are in your understanding. But even more, it's a learning tool that cements understanding through the act of articulation. So adopt this habit. After learning something, explain it to someone. Or write it out as if you're teaching it. Or record yourself explaining it. The act of teaching transforms your relationship with the knowledge, moving it from something you've heard to something you genuinely understand. The 40-second insight offers an immediate technique. Read out loud or teach the page. This is teaching at its most accessible. As you read or study, periodically stop and explain what you just encountered out loud, in your own words. Not reading the text aloud, that's different. But closing the book or looking away from the screen and saying, "Okay, what this is saying is." This forces immediate processing and translation. You can't just let words flow past your eyes. You have to convert them into understanding clear enough to articulate. And you discover immediately if you've actually grasped the concept or just skimmed the surface. If you can't explain it in your own words, you don't yet understand it well enough. Go back, reread, process more deeply, then try again. This technique slows you down in the moment, yes, but it dramatically increases retention and understanding. You might cover less material in a session, but you'll actually own what you do cover. Quality over quantity. Deep processing over surface coverage. Our 43rd principle creates crystallization. Use 1 minute what mattered most, summaries. After a study session, a practice period, or finishing a chapter, take just 1 minute to answer this question. What mattered most in what I just experienced? Not everything you learned. That would take much longer and wouldn't force prioritization. Just the most important thing. This exercise does several valuable things. It forces you to reflect rather than just moving on to the next thing. It makes you prioritize and identify what's truly essential versus what's peripheral detail. It creates a compressed, memorable summary that your brain can easily store and recall. And the act of repeatedly asking this question trains your judgment about what's important in your field. Over time, you get better at recognizing the signal amid the noise, at extracting the core insight from the supporting details. 1 minute. One key insight. After every learning session. This simple habit compounds into dramatically better retention and understanding. The 44th insight might seem old-fashioned, but the research is clear. Take notes by hand. Writing by hand is slower than typing, and that slowness is actually the advantage. When you type, you can transcribe lectures or text almost word for word without much processing. When you write by hand, you can't keep up, so you're forced to summarize, paraphrase, and select what's most important. This forced processing means you're engaging more deeply with the material as you encounter it. You're not just recording, you're thinking. Additionally, the physical act of writing seems to create stronger memory traces than typing does. Studies consistently show that students who take handwritten notes perform better on conceptual questions than students who type their notes, even when the typed notes are more complete. The mechanism isn't fully understood, but the effect is real. So when you're learning something important, reach for pen and paper. Let the slowness work for you. Let the physical act of writing deepen the encoding. Your hand and brain are having a conversation that leads to deeper learning. Our 4-5th principle refines how you interact with text. Embed micro-annotations instead of highlighting. Highlighting feels productive. You're doing something, marking important passages. But research shows that highlighting alone doesn't improve learning much because it's a passive activity. You're not processing, just marking. Micro-annotations are different. In the margin, you write a few words summarizing the paragraph. Or you write a question the text raises. Or you note how this connects to something else you know. These brief annotations force active processing. You have to think about what the text means, how to compress it, what it relates to. And later, when you review, the annotations help you reconstruct the meaning much more effectively than highlighted text does. The highlighting says this is important but doesn't tell you why or how. The annotation captures your thinking, your processing, your understanding. It creates a conversation between you and the text. So trade passive highlighting for active annotation. Even just a few words in the margin transforms how deeply you engage with what you read. The 46th insight harnesses visual thinking. Use visual mapping and concept maps. Not everyone thinks primarily in words. Visual representations of knowledge, diagrams showing how concepts relate, mind maps branching out from central ideas, flowcharts showing processes, can make complex information suddenly clear. Creating these visual maps forces you to understand relationships and structures, not just isolated facts. How does this concept connect to that one? What's central and what's peripheral? What's the hierarchy of ideas? Drawing these relationships makes them explicit and memorable. And the visual format often makes patterns and connections visible that remain hidden in linear text. Even if you don't consider yourself a visual thinker, experimenting with concept maps and visual representations can unlock new understanding. The act of creating the map, of deciding what connects to what and how to represent it spatially, is itself a powerful learning exercise. So occasionally, instead of making lists or writing paragraphs, draw a map. Sketch the relationships. Make the structure visible. Let spatial thinking complement verbal thinking. Our 47th principle engages multiple channels. Use multimodal encoding, speak, draw, move. Your brain has different systems for processing different types of information: verbal, visual, motor. When you encode information through multiple modalities, you create multiple memory traces, multiple ways to access the knowledge later. So don't just read about something. Say it out loud. Draw a picture of it. Act it out with gestures. Walk while you recite it. Each modality adds another thread connecting you to the information. And different modalities work better for different people and different types of information. Some concepts become clear when you draw them. Some stick when you speak them. Some embed when you move. You don't have to use every modality for everything, but consciously varying how you encode information creates richer, more accessible memories. The information isn't stored in just one place in your brain, it's woven throughout multiple systems, making it easier to recall and use. The 48th insight embraces memory techniques. Use mnemonics intentionally. Mnemonics, memory devices like acronyms, rhymes, or vivid imagery, sometimes get dismissed as tricks rather than real learning. But they're actually powerful tools for encoding information in memorable ways, especially information that's arbitrary or needs to be recalled precisely. The order of planets, the colors of the rainbow, the steps in a process, mnemonics make these stick. The key is intentionality. Create mnemonics for information that's genuinely important and hard to remember through understanding alone. Make them vivid and personal. The more unusual and emotionally resonant the mnemonic, the better it works. A bizarre mental image is easier to remember than a mundane one. A rhyme that makes you smile sticks better than a bland phrase. So don't shy away from memory techniques. They're not cheating, they're working with how your brain naturally remembers. Use them strategically for information that matters, and you'll find that recall becomes effortless where it was once a struggle. Our 49th principle leverages environmental cues. Use context cues as memory anchors. Your brain naturally associates information with the context in which you learned it. The physical environment, the music playing, the smell of coffee, the time of day. You can use this tendency strategically. If you're learning different topics or different aspects of a skill, associate each with distinct contextual cues. Study one subject always in the same location, or while listening to particular music. This gives your brain additional hooks for recalling the information. When you return to that context, the associated knowledge becomes more accessible. This is also why varying your study location can be valuable. It prevents knowledge from becoming too context-dependent. But when you want to cement particular information, pairing it with consistent contextual cues creates powerful memory anchors. The smell of peppermint tea becomes linked with vocabulary practice. The corner desk becomes linked with math. These associations happen automatically, but you can design them intentionally to support your learning. And finally, our 50th principle transforms how you approach reading. Speed first, detail later reading. When facing a new book or article, especially something dense or technical, the traditional approach is to start at the beginning and read carefully through to the end. But there's a better way for learning. First, skim the entire thing quickly. Read the introduction, the headings, the first and last paragraphs of sections. Look at images and diagrams. Get a sense of the overall structure and main arguments. This first pass takes maybe 10 or 15 minutes and creates a mental framework. Then, go back and read more carefully, focusing on the sections most relevant to what you need to learn. That second reading is much more effective because you already have context. You know where each piece fits in the larger picture. You can focus your attention on what matters most. And honestly, you often discover that some sections can be skipped entirely because they're not relevant to your learning goals. Speed-first reading gives you the map before you start the detailed journey. It prevents you from getting lost in details without understanding the big picture. It makes your careful reading more efficient and more effective. So before diving deep into any substantial text, take that quick first pass. Build the framework. Then fill in the details where they matter most. Our 51st principle makes learning playful. Gamify your practice. Games are engaging because they provide clear goals, immediate feedback, escalating challenges, and a sense of progress. You can bring these same elements into your learning. Turn practice sessions into challenges with specific objectives. Create point systems for completing tasks. Set personal records and try to beat them. Add elements of surprise or variety that keep things interesting. The gamification doesn't have to be elaborate. Even simple games can transform tedious practice into something you look forward to. Learning vocabulary. Make it a race against the clock. Practicing scales. See how many perfect repetitions you can achieve in a row before making a mistake, then try to beat your record. The playful mindset that games create makes practice feel less like work and more like play, and play is something we naturally want to return to. So find ways to make your practice game-like. What could you turn into a challenge? What could you compete against, even if it's just yourself? The 50-second insight quantifies progress. Use streaks, scores, or levels. There's something deeply satisfying about watching numbers go up, about maintaining an unbroken streak, about leveling up. These metrics tap into fundamental human psychology. We like to see progress, and we resist breaking patterns we've established. A practice streak creates gentle pressure to show up each day. You don't want to break the streak, so you practice even on days when motivation is low. Scores give you concrete evidence of improvement. You scored 15 yesterday, 18 today. Clear progress. Levels provide milestones that mark your advancement through stages of mastery. You're not just vaguely getting better. You're now a level 4 practitioner, working toward level 5. These quantified elements make abstract progress concrete and visible. They provide motivation on days when you can't feel the improvement directly. The numbers remind you that yes, you are moving forward, even when it doesn't feel that way. So build these into your learning. Track your streak. Score your performance. Define levels and track your advancement. Let the numbers motivate you. Our 53rd principle adds social pressure in a productive way. Use stakes and public commitments. When you tell others about your goals, you create accountability. You've put your reputation on the line, even in a small way, and that creates motivation to follow through. The stakes can be literal. Bet money with a friend that you'll practice every day this week, and if you don't, you pay up. Or they can be social. Announce your goal publicly, knowing that people will ask about your progress. Neither is about fear or punishment, but about creating external structure that supports your internal intentions. When motivation is high, these stakes seem unnecessary. But when motivation wanes, as it inevitably does, the stakes help carry you through. You practice not because you feel like it, but because you said you would, because others know about your commitment, because there's a cost to not following through. This isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's recognizing that motivation fluctuates and building external support for times when internal motivation isn't enough. So make your learning public in some way. Tell a friend. Post about it. Create stakes. Give yourself reasons beyond pure willpower to keep showing up. The 54th insight recognizes we're social creatures. Build a tiny support system. You don't need a huge community. Just 1 or 2 people who care about your learning and check in with you. An accountability partner you text after each practice session. A friend learning something similar who compares notes with you. A family member who asks about your progress each week. This tiny support system serves multiple functions. It provides encouragement when you're discouraged. It offers perspective when you're stuck. It creates gentle accountability through regular check-ins. And it gives you someone to share wins with, which makes the victories more real and more motivating. Learning alone is possible, but learning with even minimal social support is significantly more sustainable. So identify 1 or 2 people who could be part of your tiny support system. Ask them explicitly to check in with you, to ask about your progress, to celebrate your wins. Give them permission to hold you accountable. This small social structure can make the difference between persisting and giving up. Our 55th principle expands this social dimension. Learn socially with peers. When you learn alongside others who are at a similar level, something powerful happens. You see them struggle with the same challenges, which normalizes your own struggles. You see them succeed, which shows you what's possible. You can ask each other questions, share discoveries, practice together. The social context makes learning more engaging and less isolating. Study groups, practice partners, online communities of fellow learners, these create a shared experience that individual learning can't match. You're accountable to each other. You're motivated by each other's progress. You learn from each other's mistakes and insights. The social learning environment doesn't replace individual practice, but it complements it beautifully, providing motivation, perspective, and collective wisdom that accelerates everyone's progress. So seek out peers. Find others learning the same skill. Create or join a group. Let the social energy carry you forward. The 56th insight accesses concentrated wisdom. Use mentors or apprenticeships. A mentor who's already mastered what you're learning can compress your learning timeline dramatically. They've made all the mistakes already and can help you avoid them. They know the common pitfalls and can steer you around them. They can answer your questions from deep experience, not just theoretical knowledge. And they can provide encouragement rooted in genuine understanding of the path you're on. Apprenticeship, learning directly alongside an expert, is even more powerful. You see not just the final performance but the process, the thinking, the small adjustments that never make it into books or videos. You learn not just what to do but how an expert thinks about doing it. Finding mentors isn't always easy, but it's worth the effort. Online communities, local groups, professional networks. There are people ahead of you on the path willing to help those coming behind. Reach out. Ask questions. Offer value in return. Access to expertise, even informal and occasional, can accelerate your learning in ways nothing else can match. Our 57th principle inverts traditional learning. Flip the classroom model. Traditional learning puts instruction first, lecture, then homework. Flipped learning reverses this. You encounter the material first on your own, then use group or instructional time for practice, questions, and application. This is powerful because you can consume information at your own pace, pausing and rewinding as needed. Then when you come together with others or a teacher, you use that precious interactive time for what it does best, getting feedback, asking questions, working through difficulties, practicing together. The instructor or group time becomes about doing, not just listening. This makes learning more active and efficient. You're not passively sitting through explanations of things you might already understand. You're actively working on what you find difficult, with support available. If you're learning independently, you can still use this principle. Consume information from books or videos on your own, then use any interactive opportunities. Online forums, practice groups, office hours, for active problem solving and feedback. Don't waste interactive time on passive information transfer. The 58th insight builds internal drive. Build learner autonomy. Autonomy means having control over your learning. Choosing what to learn, how to learn it, when to practice. This sense of control is deeply motivating. When you feel like learning is something being done to you, motivation suffers. When you feel like you're directing your own learning journey, motivation strengthens. Even within structured learning situations, look for ways to exercise autonomy. Choose which aspect to focus on first. Decide which resources to use. Set your own practice schedule. Make decisions about your learning path. This ownership transforms the experience from obligation to choice, from external requirement to personal project. And personal projects are inherently more motivating than assignments. So wherever possible, give yourself choices. Create space for autonomous decision-making in your learning. The sense of control itself becomes a source of motivation that carries you through difficulties. Our 59th principle expands on autonomy. Increase agency and choice. Agency is the feeling that your actions matter, that you can influence outcomes through your efforts. Choice is having options about how to proceed. Together, they create a powerful motivational foundation. When you believe your practice will lead to improvement, that's agency. When you can choose which techniques to emphasize or which projects to pursue, that's choice. Both are crucial for sustained motivation. Learned helplessness, the opposite of agency, happens when people come to believe their efforts don't matter. This kills motivation completely. So protect your sense of agency by tracking progress, by seeing evidence that your practice actually works. And protect your sense of choice by creating options in your learning path. Multiple ways to practice the same skill. Different projects you could pursue. Various resources you could use. Choice makes the journey feel like yours. Agency makes the effort feel worthwhile. Together, they create the internal motivation that external rewards can never match. And finally, our 60th principle makes the invisible visible. Make progress visible. One of the hardest things about learning is that progress often feels invisible. You practice and practice, and you can't tell if you're improving. This invisible progress is motivating when you trust it, but demotivating when doubt creeps in. The solution is to make progress visible through tracking, recording, and review. Keep a learning journal where you note what you practiced and what you noticed. Record yourself regularly and compare recordings from weeks apart. The improvement that's invisible day to day becomes obvious over weeks. Create before and after examples. Chart your metrics over time. Take photos or videos of your work at different stages. These artifacts of progress provide concrete evidence when your feelings can't be trusted. On discouraging days when it feels like you're not improving at all, you can look back at where you started and see undeniable evidence of progress. This visible progress sustains motivation through the inevitable plateaus and difficulties. So build systems to capture and display your progress. Make the invisible visible. Give yourself evidence to believe in. Our 61st principle anchors everything in reality. Use concrete, real-world projects. Instead of practicing skills in the abstract, apply them to actual projects that produce real outcomes. Learning to code. Don't just do tutorial exercises. Build a small tool you actually need. Learning to write. Don't just complete writing prompts. Write something you'll actually publish or use. Learning photography. Don't just practice techniques. Create a photo series for a real purpose. Real-world projects create authentic motivation because the outcome matters. They reveal the full complexity of applying skills in realistic conditions. They give you something tangible to show for your learning. And they force you to integrate multiple sub-skills simultaneously, which builds the kind of comprehensive competence that exercises alone can't develop. Textbook problems have one right answer and clear boundaries. Real projects are messy, open-ended, and require judgment. That messiness is where deep learning happens. So anchor your learning in real projects whenever possible. Find something you actually want to create, build, or accomplish, and use that as your learning vehicle. The project becomes the reason to acquire the skills, and the skills become tools for completing something that genuinely matters to you. The 60-second insight structures learning around challenges. Problem-based learning. This approach starts with a problem or question, not with instruction. You encounter a challenge that requires skills you don't yet have. The need to solve the problem motivates learning those skills. You seek out information, practice techniques, and acquire knowledge specifically because you need them for the problem at hand. This creates powerful, purposeful learning because everything you learn has immediate relevance and application. The traditional model teaches skills first, then applies them. Problem-based learning reverses this. The problem comes first, and the skill acquisition flows from genuine need. This mirrors how adults naturally learn in real life. You don't learn how to fix a faucet by taking a comprehensive plumbing course. You learn it because your faucet is dripping, and you need to fix it. That immediate, practical need focuses your attention and makes the learning stick. So structure your learning around problems when you can. Find challenges that require the skills you want to develop, then learn what you need to solve them. The problem provides the purpose and the context that make skills meaningful. Our 63rd principle puts curiosity first. Inquiry-based learning. This approach begins with questions, your questions, things you genuinely want to understand. Why does this happen? How does this work? What would happen if? The inquiry drives the learning. You're not covering material someone else decided you should know. You're following your own curiosity, seeking answers to questions that genuinely interest you. This creates intrinsic motivation that external goals can't match. You want to know because you're curious, not because someone told you to learn it. And when you finally understand, when the answer emerges, it's deeply satisfying in a way that externally motivated learning rarely is. Inquiry-based learning also builds investigative skills: how to ask good questions, how to research, how to evaluate information, how to construct understanding from multiple sources. These meta skills transfer across domains. So cultivate your questions. What do you wonder about? What puzzles you? What would you like to understand? Let those questions guide your learning. Follow your curiosity and let it pull you forward into knowledge. The 64th insight engages the whole self, learning through your body. Many skills have physical components, and engaging your body in the learning process creates deeper, more durable understanding. Even for seemingly abstract skills, physical movement can enhance learning. Walking while memorizing improves retention. Gesturing while explaining helps clarify thinking. Building physical models of abstract concepts makes them concrete. And for skills that are inherently physical, sports, music, dance, crafts, there's simply no substitute for embodied practice. Your body learns in ways your mind alone cannot. Muscle memory, proprioception, the feeling of correct form, these aren't metaphors. They're real forms of knowledge stored in your neuromuscular system. So engage your body in learning whenever relevant. Don't just read about the technique, physically do it. Don't just think about the concept, move with it, gesture it, build it. The integration of mind and body creates learning that's robust, accessible, and deeply ingrained. Our 65th principle changes the learning location. Learning outside in real environments. The physical environment shapes learning in profound ways. When you learn in the actual environment where you'll use the skill, you encode contextual information automatically. You learn to deal with real conditions, weather, noise, distractions, spatial constraints that don't exist in controlled indoor practice spaces. You develop skills that work in reality, not just in ideal conditions. Learning to identify plants. Do it in the forest, not just with flashcards. Learning photography. Shoot in diverse real locations, not just in a studio. Learning a language. Practice in places where that language is spoken, or at least in realistic social contexts, not just at a desk. The real environment provides challenges, variability, and authenticity that artificial environments can't replicate. And the skills you develop in real environments are more flexible, more robust, more genuinely useful. So take your learning outside, into the real world, whenever you can. Let reality be your classroom. The 66th insight deepens environmental connection. Place-based learning. This goes beyond just being outside. It's about connecting learning to a specific place that matters. Learning about ecosystems by studying the specific ecosystem in your local park. Learning about history by exploring the historical sites in your own town. Learning about geology by examining the rocks and landforms where you live. Place-based learning creates personal connection and relevance. This isn't abstract knowledge about somewhere else, it's understanding of here, your place, the world you actually inhabit. This personal connection makes learning more meaningful and memorable. It also builds observational skills and deep attention to your surroundings. You start noticing things you walked past for years without seeing. And it often creates a sense of stewardship. When you understand your place deeply, you care about it differently. So ground your learning in specific places when possible. What can you learn about where you are? How can your actual location become a rich text for learning? Our 67th principle adds purpose and direction. Mission-based learning. A mission is a larger purpose that gives meaning to skill acquisition. You're not just learning photography, you're documenting disappearing local businesses. You're not just learning to code, you're building tools for a non-profit you care about. You're not just learning Spanish, you're preparing to volunteer in a Spanish-speaking community. The mission provides motivation that transcends the skill itself. You persist through difficulties because the mission matters, because the skill is in service of something larger. Mission-based learning also provides built-in opportunities for application. You're constantly using your developing skills in pursuit of the mission, which accelerates learning through real-world use. And missions often connect you with communities of people who share your purpose, adding the social dimension that sustains motivation. So consider, what mission could your learning serve? What larger purpose would make skill acquisition feel meaningful and urgent? Find that mission, and let it pull your learning forward. The 68th insight creates safe experimentation, role-play and simulations. Sometimes you can't practice in the actual situation. It's too high stakes, too expensive, too dangerous, or too rare. Role-play and simulations bridge the gap between artificial practice and real application. They create realistic scenarios where you can practice the full complexity of a skill with real-time decision-making and consequences, but without real-world risk. Medical students practice on simulation mannequins before treating real patients. Pilots train in flight simulators before flying actual planes. You can practice difficult conversations through role-play before having them for real. Simulations force you to integrate everything you've learned and apply it in realistic, dynamic situations. They reveal what you can actually do under pressure, not just what you know in theory. And they let you make mistakes, learn from them, and try again in ways that real situations might not allow. So look for or create simulation opportunities. Can you role-play the situation? Can you create a realistic mock scenario? These simulated experiences build confidence and competence that transfer remarkably well to real performance. Our 69th principle creates collaborative intensity. Studio-based learning. The studio model, common in art and design education, involves working on projects in a shared space with peers and instructors, receiving ongoing critique and feedback throughout the process. It's learning through making, in community, with constant iteration based on feedback. You don't work in isolation and then present a finished product. You work openly, sharing work in progress, receiving input, revising, improving. This model creates several powerful learning conditions. The shared space with others working on similar challenges creates energy and inspiration. The ongoing feedback prevents you from going too far down wrong paths. The public nature of the work creates healthy pressure to produce quality. And the iterative revision process teaches you that great work comes through refinement, not sudden perfection. While the studio model started in arts education, it applies broadly. Study groups can function as studios. Co-working spaces for writers or programmers create studio dynamics. Even informal communities where people share their work in progress and give each other feedback capture the essence. So seek studio-like environments where you can work alongside others, share freely, receive feedback, and revise openly. And finally, our 70th principle shifts how we measure learning, portfolio-based assessment. Instead of testing knowledge through exams or quizzes, portfolio assessment evaluates learning through collections of actual work. Your portfolio demonstrates what you can do, not just what you know. It shows growth over time through multiple pieces that reveal your developing capability. And it focuses attention on creating real work rather than performing well on artificial tests. Portfolio-based assessment changes how you approach learning. You're always creating, always building toward actual demonstrations of skill. The emphasis shifts from memorizing information to producing quality work. From performing on demand to building a body of evidence over time. You can implement portfolio thinking even in your independent learning. Collect your work. Curate pieces that show your growth. Use the portfolio as a way to see your own progress and to share your capabilities with others. The portfolio becomes the embodiment of your learning, tangible proof of skills developed and applied. Our 71st principle harnesses the oldest teaching tool, story-driven learning. Humans are wired for stories. We remember narratives far better than isolated facts. We engage emotionally with characters and plots in ways that dry instruction never achieves. Story-driven learning wraps knowledge and skills in narrative structure. History becomes the story of people making decisions in specific moments. Science becomes the story of discovery, of questions asked and answered. Skills become the hero's journey of development and mastery. When information is embedded in story, it gains context, emotion, and structure that make it memorable and meaningful. The story provides a thread that connects isolated pieces into a coherent whole. It creates stakes that make you care about the information. And it mirrors how knowledge actually exists in the world, not as isolated facts, but as interconnected narratives of cause and effect, problem and solution, question and answer. So look for the stories within what you're learning. Who discovered this? Why did they care? What problem were they trying to solve? What happened as a result? Let the narrative structure support and organize your understanding. And when teaching yourself or others, frame information as story whenever possible. The ancient power of narrative is still the most effective learning tool we have. The 70-second insight makes learning an adventure and expedition-based learning. This model treats learning as a journey into unknown territory, literally or metaphorically. You venture out with questions, encounter challenges, make discoveries, and return transformed. Sometimes this is physical, a hiking expedition where you learn navigation, wilderness skills, ecology, and self-reliance through direct experience. Sometimes it's intellectual, an in-depth exploration of a topic where you follow questions wherever they lead, like an explorer mapping new territory. Adventure-based learning creates genuine challenge and risk in safe enough contexts. You face real difficulties that require real problem-solving. You can't just theoretically understand, you have to actually do. The expedition structure creates natural motivation through curiosity about what you'll discover and the desire to overcome challenges. And it builds resilience, resourcefulness, and confidence that go beyond the specific skills learned. The adventure itself becomes a powerful learning experience. So consider, what would an expedition into your learning look like? What unknown territory could you explore? What adventure could you undertake that would require and develop the skills you want to learn? Our 73rd principle reconnects with nature, forest school and outdoor immersion. This approach, originating in Scandinavia, places learning directly in natural environments, particularly forests, for extended periods. Children, and increasingly adults, learn through unstructured play, exploration, and interaction with the natural world. The forest becomes both classroom and curriculum. You learn by observing seasons, weather, plants, and animals. By building, creating, and problem-solving with natural materials. By taking age-appropriate risks and learning your own capabilities. Forest school isn't just about nature education. It's about using nature as the medium for all learning. Math through measuring and counting natural objects. Literacy through nature journaling. Science through direct observation and experimentation. Social skills through collaborative outdoor play. The benefits are profound: improved physical health, better focus and attention, reduced stress, enhanced creativity, and deeper environmental connection. While full forest school immersion might not be accessible to everyone, the principles apply broadly. Can you take your learning outside? Can you incorporate natural elements and environments? Can you learn through direct interaction with the physical world rather than just screens and books? The forest school model reminds us that learning happened outdoors for most of human history, and our brains are still wired for that kind of embodied, nature-based learning. The 74th insight distributes power differently. Democratic classrooms. In democratic learning environments, learners have genuine voice and vote in how learning happens. They help decide what to study, how to approach it, what rules govern the space, and how to assess learning. This isn't chaos, it's shared governance. The structure still exists, but it's created collaboratively rather than imposed from above. Democratic classrooms build several things simultaneously: the actual subject matter being learned, and also skills in collaboration, negotiation, decision-making, and self-governance. When you have real power over your learning environment, you develop ownership and responsibility that can't be imposed externally. You learn that your voice matters, that you can influence your circumstances, that community thrives through participation and shared responsibility. While this model is most common in formal education settings, the principles apply to self-directed learning too. Are you giving yourself genuine choice and voice in your own learning? Are you collaboratively creating learning structures with peers rather than always following externally imposed curricula? Democratic principles can transform learning from something done to you into something you actively create and shape. Our 75th principle accesses community wisdom. Community mentor models. Instead of relying on a single teacher or self-study, this approach draws on the expertise distributed throughout a community. Different people teach different things based on their knowledge and skills. An elder teaches traditional skills. A neighbor teaches gardening. A local artist teaches painting. A community member who speaks another language teaches that language. This model recognizes that expertise is everywhere, not confined to credentialed professionals. It builds intergenerational and cross-community connections. It allows people to contribute meaningfully by sharing what they know. And it exposes learners to multiple perspectives, approaches, and areas of knowledge they might never encounter in formal settings. Community mentor models are particularly powerful for practical skills, cultural knowledge, and local understanding. They're accessible. You probably know people with skills and knowledge they'd be happy to share. And they build social fabric while facilitating learning. So look around your community. Who knows things you want to learn? Who could you apprentice yourself to, even informally? Whose knowledge could you access through simple asking and genuine interest? The 76th insight combines approaches. Blended learning. This model intentionally mixes different learning modalities, online and in person, self-paced and structured, individual and collaborative, theoretical and applied. The blend is strategic, using each approach for what it does best. Online resources for flexible, self-paced information acquisition. In-person sessions for collaboration, feedback, and complex problem-solving. Individual work for deep focus and practice. Group work for peer learning and social construction of knowledge. Blended learning recognizes that no single approach works best for everything. Different content, different learners, different contexts call for different methods. The art is in the mixing, creating a combination that leverages the strengths of multiple approaches while mitigating their individual weaknesses. You can implement blended learning in your own study. Use online courses for structured content, but supplement with in-person practice groups. Read books for deep knowledge, but use apps for spaced repetition practice. Learn theory through videos, but apply it through real projects. The blend gives you flexibility, variety, and the right tool for each learning task. Our 77th principle acknowledges modern complexity. Hybrid learning models. Hybrid learning typically refers to combining physical and virtual presence, some people in a room, others joining remotely, all learning together. But more broadly, it means creating learning experiences that bridge different spaces, times, and modes of engagement. Synchronous and asynchronous. Local and distributed. Physical and digital. Hybrid models accommodate different circumstances while maintaining connection and shared experience. They allow learning to happen across distances and schedules that would make traditional models impossible. And they prepare learners for increasingly hybrid professional and social environments. The challenge with hybrid learning is maintaining quality and connection across the different modes. When done well, hybrid models offer flexibility without sacrificing community or effectiveness. When done poorly, some participants feel like second-class observers. The key is intentional design that considers all participants equally and uses technology to bridge rather than divide. As you structure your own learning, hybrid thinking might help you access resources, communities, and opportunities beyond your immediate physical environment while staying grounded in local practice and application. The 78th insight brings nuance to technology. Multimedia used wisely. We're surrounded by multimedia, videos, podcasts, interactive simulations, animations, infographics. These can be powerful learning tools, but only when used appropriately. Multimedia is most effective when different media types work together to convey information that would be harder to understand through a single medium alone. An animation showing how a process works over time. A video demonstrating a physical technique. An interactive simulation where you can manipulate variables and see results. These use multimedia's unique affordances. But multimedia can also be distracting and cognitively overwhelming when overused or poorly designed. Videos filled with unnecessary graphics. Podcasts that would be clearer as text. Flashy presentations that prioritize style over substance. Wise multimedia use means matching the medium to the message. Use video when movement or demonstration matters. Use audio when you can learn while doing other things with your hands or eyes. Use text for complex information you need to process at your own pace. Use interactive elements when manipulation and experimentation aid understanding. Don't use multimedia just because you can. Use it when it genuinely enhances learning. Be thoughtful about when high-tech beats low-tech, and when simple beats complex. Our 7th to 9th principle systematizes the small, micro-learning as a system. We've talked about micro-learning bursts before, but here we consider it as a complete system, not just a supplement to other learning. When properly systematized, micro-learning can be remarkably comprehensive. Each micro-lesson is tiny, 3 to 5 minutes, but they're carefully sequenced, building progressively on each other. They're designed for mobile consumption, fitting into life's small moments. They use spaced repetition, returning to concepts at optimal intervals. And they often incorporate gamification, social features, and progress tracking. As a system, microlearning makes education accessible to people whose lives don't accommodate hour-long study sessions. It works with attention spans shaped by modern media consumption. And it can cover substantial ground through accumulated small steps. Language learning apps like Duolingo demonstrate microlearning's potential. Millions learning languages through 5-minute daily sessions. The limitation is that microlearning works better for some skills than others. It's excellent for knowledge acquisition, vocabulary, recognition, and simple concepts. It's less suitable for complex problem-solving, extended practice, or deep critical thinking. But as part of a learning ecosystem, systematized microlearning offers a way to maintain consistent contact with material and build knowledge even in fragmented schedules. And finally, our 80th principle addresses practical reality. Cost-effective blended models. Quality learning doesn't require expensive institutions or technologies. Cost-effective blended models combine free or low-cost resources strategically. Free online courses for structured content. Public libraries for books and resources. Community spaces for study and collaboration. Free or freemium apps for practice and reinforcement. YouTube for tutorials and demonstrations. online communities for support and feedback, local mentors and peer learning groups for guidance and accountability. When thoughtfully combined, these free or affordable resources can match or exceed what expensive programs offer. The key is strategic curation and combination. Not using every free resource available, but selecting resources that complement each other and align with your goals. Cost-effective models democratize learning, making high-quality education accessible regardless of financial means. They require more self-direction and initiative than buying a packaged program, but that extra agency often enhances learning itself. So if resources are limited, know that excellent learning is still entirely possible. The tools exist. The knowledge is accessible. What's required is thoughtful selection, strategic combination, and consistent effort. Our 81st outcome is perhaps the most immediate: higher engagement and motivation. When you learn using evidence-based techniques in ways that align with how your brain naturally works, something fundamental shifts. Learning stops feeling like a chore you force yourself through and starts feeling like something you're genuinely drawn to. You're engaged because the learning itself is interesting, challenging in manageable ways, and produces visible progress. You're motivated because you're seeing results, experiencing competence, and pursuing goals that matter to you. This engagement and motivation aren't things you have to manufacture through willpower. They emerge naturally from well-designed learning experiences. And once they're present, they become self-reinforcing. Engagement leads to practice, practice leads to progress, progress increases motivation, motivation increases engagement. You enter a virtuous cycle where learning pulls you forward rather than requiring constant pushing. This transformation from reluctant student to engaged learner changes your relationship with learning itself. It stops being something you do only when required and becomes something you seek out because it's genuinely satisfying. The 82nd outcome addresses real utility. Better real-world transfer. Traditional learning often stays trapped in academic contexts. You can pass the test but can't apply the knowledge to actual situations. The approaches we've explored, learning through projects, problems, and real environments, produce knowledge and skills that transfer seamlessly to real-world application. You don't just know things in theory, you can actually use them when they matter. This transfer happens because you learned in contexts similar to where you'll use the skills. You practiced the whole skill, not just components. You dealt with the messiness and complexity of real application from the beginning. The result is competence that shows up when you need it, not just in controlled practice conditions. This is the ultimate measure of learning, not what you can demonstrate in artificial tests, but what you can actually do in real situations. And when your learning transfers well to reality, it proves its value every time you use it. The skills become tools you can rely on, not just credentials you've accumulated. Our 83rd outcome builds independence, improved self-management. When you take ownership of your learning, setting your own goals, designing your practice, monitoring your progress, adjusting your approach, you develop self-management skills that extend far beyond the specific content you're learning. You learn to assess your own understanding honestly, to identify gaps in your knowledge, to seek resources when you need them, to persist through difficulties, to adjust strategies when something isn't working. These metacognitive and self-regulatory skills are incredibly valuable in every domain of life. They make you less dependent on external direction and more capable of directing yourself. You become someone who can identify what needs to be learned and figure out how to learn it, rather than someone who can only learn when taught. This independence is empowering and practical. It means you're never stuck waiting for someone to teach you. You can learn what you need, when you need it, throughout your entire life. The 84th outcome affects your whole being. Better mental health and well-being. There's something deeply satisfying about learning and growing, about becoming capable of things you couldn't do before. It builds self-efficacy, the belief that you can influence outcomes through your efforts. It provides a sense of progress and forward movement. It engages your mind in ways that are absorbing and fulfilling. And when learning is structured well, with manageable challenges and visible progress, it becomes a source of flow states, those moments of complete absorption where you lose track of time and emerge energized rather than depleted. All of this contributes to well-being in ways that go far beyond the specific skills learned. The confidence that comes from successful learning spills into other areas of life. The engagement protects against boredom and purposelessness. The progress creates optimism about the future. And the growing competence builds genuine self-esteem rooted in actual capability, not empty affirmations. Learning done well is therapeutic, restorative, and life-affirming. Our 85th outcome opens doors. Greater inclusivity. Many traditional learning approaches work well only for people with certain backgrounds, learning preferences, or circumstances. The diverse approaches we've explored, different modalities, paces, contexts, and structures, make effective learning accessible to many more people. Someone whose schedule doesn't accommodate long study sessions can learn through microlearning. Someone who struggles with reading heavy instruction can learn through multimedia or hands-on projects. Someone without access to formal education can learn through community mentors and free online resources. Someone who needs movement can learn through embodied practice. The variety of effective approaches means there are paths to mastery for people with diverse needs, preferences, and circumstances. This inclusivity isn't just ethically important, it's practically valuable. We all benefit when more people can develop their capabilities fully, when potential isn't wasted because the available learning methods don't fit someone's situation or style. The 86th outcome builds conviction, stronger trust and adherence. When you understand why learning techniques work, when you experience their effectiveness personally, you develop trust in the process. This trust makes you more likely to persist with evidence-based approaches even when they feel difficult or counterintuitive. You stick with spaced repetition even though cramming feels more immediately satisfying. You embrace productive struggle even though immediate help would be easier. You maintain consistent practice even when progress feels invisible. This adherence to effective methods, sustained over time, is what produces exceptional results. Fast learners aren't people with special gifts, they're people who trust and follow evidence-based approaches consistently. And that trust comes from understanding the science, experiencing the results, and seeing proof that the methods work. Once you have that trust, you stop second-guessing and start executing, which is when the compounding effects of good practice truly emerge. Our 87th outcome expands success, more holistic outcomes. Traditional education often focuses narrowly on academic achievement, test scores, grades, credentials. The approaches we've explored produce broader benefits. Yes, you learn the specific skills and knowledge you're pursuing. But you also develop confidence, resilience, self-direction, collaboration skills, creativity, critical thinking, and a love of learning itself. You become not just more knowledgeable, but more capable, more confident, more curious, more connected. These holistic outcomes prepare you for life in ways that narrow academic achievement cannot. They make you adaptable in changing circumstances, resourceful when facing new challenges, and fulfilled through ongoing growth. The specific facts and skills you learn might become obsolete, but these broader capabilities remain valuable throughout your life. So measuring learning success only by what you know misses most of what matters. The person you become through the learning process is often more important than the specific content you master. The 88th outcome unleashes potential, creativity, and innovation. When you learn through inquiry, problem-solving, and real-world projects, when you're given autonomy and choice, when you're encouraged to customize and experiment, you develop creativity alongside competence. You learn that there are multiple solutions to most problems, multiple approaches to most challenges. You develop comfort with ambiguity and unknown territory. You become someone who can generate novel ideas, combine concepts in new ways, and approach challenges creatively rather than just applying memorized procedures. This creativity isn't just valuable in artistic domains, it's essential in any field that faces new problems or changing conditions. The rapidly changing world needs people who can innovate, adapt, and create solutions to problems that don't yet exist. Learning approaches that emphasize creativity and experimentation prepare you for that reality in ways that rote memorization and rigid procedures cannot. Our 89th outcome builds connection, collaboration, and communication. When you learn socially, with peers and mentors, when you participate in studio environments and democratic communities, when you teach others what you're learning, you develop collaboration and communication skills organically. You learn to explain your thinking clearly, to listen to and build on others' ideas, to give and receive constructive feedback, to negotiate and compromise, to contribute to collective goals. These social skills are increasingly recognized as essential for success in almost any domain. Most important work happens in teams, not isolation. Most valuable innovations come from collaboration, not lone genius. And the ability to communicate complex ideas clearly is often what separates those who advance from those who stagnate. Learning environments that emphasize social interaction develop these skills naturally, as byproducts of the learning process itself. You become not just more knowledgeable, but more capable of working effectively with others. And finally, our 90th outcome develops intellectual power, critical thinking, and problem solving. When you learn through problems and inquiry rather than memorization, when you grapple with real complexity rather than simplified textbook cases, when you're encouraged to question and analyze rather than just accept, you develop critical thinking as an integrated part of learning. You learn to evaluate information and arguments, to recognize patterns and underlying principles, to break complex problems into manageable components, to synthesize information from multiple sources, to think several steps ahead, to question assumptions, including your own. These thinking skills are perhaps the most valuable outcome of all because they make all other learning easier and more effective. Strong critical thinking means you can learn anything more efficiently, solve problems more effectively, and navigate complexity more successfully. It's the meta skill that accelerates all other skill development. And it's developed not through abstract exercises in logic, but through repeated engagement with real problems that require genuine thinking. Our 91st insight reveals patterns, innovation clusters in 4 themes. As we look across the landscape of learning innovation worldwide, 4 major themes emerge again and again. First, personalization, tailoring learning to individual needs, paces, and preferences. Second, engagement, making learning intrinsically motivating through game elements, social features, and meaningful application. Third, accessibility, removing barriers so anyone, anywhere can learn effectively. And fourth, integration, connecting learning with well-being, with real-world application, with whole-person development. These aren't isolated trends. They're interconnected movements transforming how learning happens. Personalization requires technology that can adapt to individuals. Engagement requires understanding motivation and game design. Accessibility requires inclusive design and diverse modalities. Integration requires holistic thinking about human development. Together, these themes point toward a future where learning is more effective, more accessible, more engaging, and more human-centered than ever before. The innovations we're seeing aren't random. They're converging around these core principles, creating new possibilities for how humans develop capabilities. The 92nd insight elevates thinking itself, creative thinking as a core outcome. As automation and artificial intelligence handle more routine cognitive tasks, creative thinking becomes increasingly valuable. The future belongs to people who can generate novel ideas, combine concepts in unexpected ways, see problems from multiple perspectives, and imagine possibilities that don't yet exist. This shift is reshaping learning priorities. It's no longer enough to memorize information or follow established procedures. The most valuable skills are those that machines can't easily replicate: creativity, imagination, innovation, original thinking. Learning approaches that emphasize inquiry, experimentation, and creative problem-solving aren't just nice additions, they're becoming essential. The ability to think creatively, to approach challenges with imagination and flexibility, is moving from optional enrichment to core survival skill. And the good news is that creativity can be cultivated. It emerges naturally from learning environments that encourage experimentation, that value multiple solutions, that give space for play and exploration, that connect disparate ideas. The future of learning must center creative thinking, not as a separate subject, but as an integrated outcome of how we approach all learning. Our 93rd insight identifies winning combinations: gamification plus collaboration dominance. Two powerful trends are converging. Gamification, using game elements like points, levels, challenges, and rewards to increase engagement, has proven remarkably effective for motivation. Collaboration, learning with and from others, has proven essential for deep understanding and sustained commitment. Separately, each is valuable. Together, they're transformative. Collaborative games and gamified social learning environments create engagement that neither approach alone can match. You're motivated by the game elements, but you're also accountable to teammates. You're progressing through levels, but you're doing it alongside others facing similar challenges. You're earning points, but you're also contributing to collective goals. This combination taps into both individual achievement motivation and social connection needs. The learning platforms and approaches that dominate the future will likely be those that successfully integrate these elements, making learning feel like playing a meaningful game with people you care about. Not trivial games, but serious games. Not superficial socializing, but genuine collaborative learning. The combination creates stickiness and effectiveness that traditional isolated study simply cannot achieve. The 94th insight brings personalization to scale. AI tutors enabling deep personalization. Artificial intelligence is making it possible to provide each learner with effectively personalized instruction at scale. AI tutors can adapt in real time to how you're learning, what you're struggling with, what pace works for you. They can provide explanations in multiple ways until one clicks. They can generate unlimited practice problems at exactly the right difficulty level. They can identify patterns in your errors and address underlying misconceptions. They never get tired, never judge, never give up on you. This isn't replacing human teachers, it's augmenting them, handling the personalized drill and practice while freeing humans for the high-value interactions that require empathy, creativity, and deep understanding. AI tutoring makes expert-level personalization accessible to everyone, not just those who can afford private tutors. It creates the possibility of every learner having instruction tailored precisely to their needs, paced exactly to their readiness. This technology is still developing, but its trajectory is clear. The future includes AI learning companions that know you, adapt to you, and support your learning journey with a level of personalization that was impossible before. Our 95th insight brings data to learning. Learning analytics shaping decisions. As learning increasingly happens through digital platforms, we generate vast amounts of data about how learning actually occurs. Learning analytics use this data to reveal patterns, predict outcomes, and inform decisions. Which practice strategies actually work best? At what point do learners typically struggle? Which resources produce the best outcomes? What sequence of topics optimizes learning? These aren't philosophical questions anymore. They're empirical questions we can answer with data. And the answers often surprise us, revealing that intuitive approaches don't always work as well as we think, while counterintuitive strategies sometimes work brilliantly. Learning analytics can help you understand your own learning patterns, identifying when you're most productive, what conditions support your best learning, where your knowledge gaps are. At larger scales, analytics help educators and platform designers make evidence-based decisions about how to structure learning experiences. The danger is reducing learning to only what can be measured, losing sight of important outcomes that don't show up in data. But used wisely, learning analytics brings scientific rigor to questions that were previously answered only by tradition and intuition. The 96th insight seeks simplicity, reducing edtech sprawl. As educational technology has proliferated, many learners and educators find themselves overwhelmed by too many tools, too many platforms, too many apps, each requiring its own login, interface, and workflow. EdTech sprawl creates cognitive overhead and friction that undermines learning. The future trend is toward consolidation and integration. Fewer, better tools that work seamlessly together. Platforms that integrate multiple functions rather than requiring you to jump between separate apps. Standards that allow different tools to share data and work together. Thoughtful curation that selects the most effective tools rather than trying to use everything available. This consolidation isn't about limiting options. It's about removing the overhead and complexity that prevent people from focusing on actual learning. The goal is technology that becomes invisible, that supports learning without demanding attention itself. As the edtech landscape matures, we're seeing movement away from proliferation and toward thoughtful integration. The future is not necessarily more technology, but better technology, more thoughtfully designed and integrated. Our 97th insight makes the virtual real, VR and AR scaling globally. Virtual and augmented reality technologies are becoming more accessible and more powerful. VR can place you in any environment. Walk through ancient Rome, explore the inside of a cell, practice surgery in a realistic simulation. AR can overlay information on the physical world. Point your device at a plant and see its name and characteristics. Look at a machine and see how it works with animated overlays. These technologies make possible learning experiences that would be impossible, impractical, or dangerous in reality. They create presence and immersion that enhances both engagement and memory. As the technology becomes cheaper and more widely available, and as the content library grows, VR and AR are shifting from novelty to genuine learning tool. They're particularly powerful for spatial understanding, procedural skills, and experiences that require presence in specific environments. The future includes learning opportunities that weren't previously possible, exploring places you can't physically visit, practicing skills that would be too expensive or dangerous to practice in reality, seeing the invisible made visible. These technologies won't replace all other forms of learning, but they'll add powerful new modalities to the toolkit. The 98th insight integrates wellness. Well-being integrated into learning tech. There's growing recognition that learning and well-being are interconnected, not separate concerns. Stressed, anxious, sleep-deprived learners don't learn well, no matter how good the instruction. Forward-thinking learning technologies are beginning to integrate well-being features, reminders to take breaks, breathing exercises, sleep tracking, stress management, encouragement and emotional support. The goal is holistic development, supporting the whole person, not just cognitive performance. This integration acknowledges that learning happens in bodies and nervous systems, not just abstract minds. That rest is part of the learning process, not time away from it. That emotional states affect cognitive capacity. That sustainable learning requires attention to physical and mental health. As this integration deepens, the boundary between learning tools and wellness tools blurs. The best learning platforms of the future will support not just what you're learning, but how you're doing as you learn it. They'll help you learn in ways that enhance rather than undermine your overall well-being. Our 99th insight names what matters most: adaptability as a survival skill. In a rapidly changing world, specific knowledge and fixed skills become obsolete quickly. What remains valuable is the ability to adapt, to learn new things as needed, to adjust to changing circumstances, to remain flexible and capable as conditions shift. Adaptability isn't just helpful anymore. It's essential for navigating careers that will span multiple industries, technologies that will transform every field, and challenges we can't yet imagine. The most important outcome of education isn't any particular fact or skill, it's the capacity to continue learning throughout life, to adapt to new situations, to acquire new capabilities as they're needed. This is why learning to learn fast matters so much. It's the meta skill that enables all other skills. When you can learn quickly and effectively, you can adapt to anything. You're not locked into what you already know. You can grow into whatever the future requires. Adaptability, powered by strong learning skills, is the survival skill of the modern age. And finally, our 100th insight brings it all together. Learning fast is now a life skill. Learning used to be something you did in youth, acquiring the knowledge and skills you'd use throughout a long, stable career. That world no longer exists. Now, learning is continuous, ongoing, lifelong. The ability to learn quickly and effectively isn't an academic concern. It's a practical life skill as essential as reading or basic mathematics. You need it to stay relevant in changing careers, to understand new technologies as they emerge, to adapt to shifting social and environmental conditions, to pursue interests and passions as they evolve, to maintain cognitive health as you age. Fast learning isn't about cramming more in or racing through life. It's about being able to acquire new capabilities when you need them, efficiently and effectively, so you can thrive in whatever circumstances you encounter. The techniques and strategies we've explored throughout this journey aren't exotic secrets. They're practical tools for navigating modern life successfully. They're how you stay capable, relevant, and growing in a world that never stops changing. So here we are, at the end of our 100 facts about learning skills quickly. We've journeyed from mindset through science, from daily practice through smart techniques, from motivation through real-world application, from diverse models through profound outcomes, and finally to this vision of the future. The world is changing faster than ever. New technologies, new challenges, new opportunities emerge constantly. The people who thrive in this environment aren't those who know the most right now, they're those who can learn what they need when they need it. Those who can adapt, grow, and develop new capabilities throughout their lives. That can be you. The techniques exist. The strategies work. The path is clear. Learning to learn fast is the ultimate leverage, the skill that makes all other skills accessible. As you drift into sleep now, let this final truth settle deeply. You are capable of learning anything you choose to learn. The barriers that once seemed insurmountable, limited time, fading motivation, unclear methods, are all solvable. The science is clear. The tools are available. The only question is whether you'll use them. The future belongs to fast learners, to adaptable people, to those who embrace continuous growth. Not because they're gifted or lucky, but because they've learned how to learn. You've spent these hours exploring that knowledge. Now you have it. What you do with it is up to you. Sleep deeply now, with the knowledge that you're different than you were when we started. You know things about learning that most people never discover. You have strategies that can transform how quickly you acquire new capabilities. Tomorrow, when you wake, you'll be a fast learner. Not because something magical happened, but because you now know what fast learners know and can do what fast learners do. The world is changing, but you can change faster. Sleep well, fast learner. The future is waiting. Good night.